Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan, marhaban. Welcome everyone to our 12th session. This is our Islamic studies session wherein we look at general aspects general things that we need to know as Muslims. So alhamdulillah, we have been going through the book, which is, I'll just mention the translation, the book in which it's common lessons that Muslims need to know. So we have done up to lesson 14, bi'idhnillah. And inshallah ta'ala, what I'm going to do, I'm going to recap some quick pointers that we did last week, lessons 11, 12, 13, and also a little addition, inshallah ta'ala, some additional notes or explanations within the text regarding the pillars of Islam. So bi'idhnillah, without any further ado, I will share my screen. Give me a second. So alhamdulillah. So I've extracted some of the lessons from the text. Lesson 11, alhamdulillah, was the one in which we looked at the things that nullify salah. So in just recapping, there are 8 things that are mentioned that nullify the salah. Number 1, intentional speaking while remembering and knowing. So you know you're in salah, you're intentionally speaking. Forgetting or not realizing that you're in salah doesn't invalidate the salah. And again, even the aspect of not knowing, there are some details regarding that, because one will ask, how can I be in salah and not know that I'm in salah? Understand forgetting, but inshallah ta'ala, we're not getting into the technical aspects. So number 1, intentional speaking, knowing fully well that you're in salah. Number 2, laughing. Number 3, eating. Number 4, drinking. Number 5, exposing the private parts. Number 6, deviating a lot, significantly from the direction of the qibla, and continuous unnecessary moving while praying. And of course, number 8, breaking wudu. So those were the pointers we had mentioned bi'idhnillah. Now, again, with regards to the rulings on movement within salah, I'll just have it on my screen for a second or two. We had prohibited movements. We looked at disliked movements, that which is permissible, that which is recommended, and that which is obligatory. So we looked at those aspects regarding movement within salah. Some important points that we also looked at: what is the difference between the arkan, the wajibat? What is the difference between what is recommended, what is obligatory, what is a pillar, what is a condition, right? So we looked at all of the differences bi'idhnillah, that the conditions themselves are before the act of worship. The conditions have to be satisfied throughout the act of worship, and it is not excuse for leaving off the conditions intentionally, out of ignorance, nor forgetfully. So that is not an excuse. Then we also looked at the pillars, the obligation, and the recommended. These are all within the act of worship. They are present in a part of the act of worship. And then regarding the recommended, it is excuse for leaving it intentionally, out of ignorance or forgetfully. The obligation, excuse for leaving it out of ignorance or forgetfully. The pillar, again, not excuse for leaving it up. Whether you forget or intentionally, it's not excusable. Then with regards to the sajda of forgetfulness, sujood sahu, the recommended acts, there is no sujood that is necessary. For that which is obligatory, if you forgot, then of course you make the sajda of forgetfulness. Regarding the pillar, you make the sajda of forgetfulness, but it doesn't make up for that which is missed. So for the obligation, yes, okay. So this act, as we mentioned before, for example, the sitting after 2 rakah, when you're in a 3 rakah or 4 rakah salah. So you forgot to sit at that point in time. You make the sujood at the end of the salah. That is sufficient. However, if you forgot to make ruku, you forgot to make a sajda, you forgot to stand in qiyam, if you forgot to do these things, then the sajda will not be enough. You have to make that act, it has to be done, and then you make the sajda of forgetfulness. And regarding the conditions of salah, if you say you didn't have wudu, and you remember surely you didn't have wudu, then you can't just make a sajda forgetfulness and then that's enough. Then you have to make it over, because you are very certain you didn't have wudu. Now, so those are, inshallah ta'ala, just a quick recap of some of the things we did. In lesson 12, alhamdulillah, we looked at the conditions of ablution, of wudu, and there are 10. Amongst the 10 conditions, we said Islam, one has to be a Muslim, one has to be sane, one has to reach the age of balagha, the age of puberty, one has to have the intention, you have to have the intention also throughout, right, that you're going to complete the entire wudu. The season of the actions that nullify the ablution. So if you are there, you are eating and you stop, right? You're passing in, you're urinating, that has to be completed. right? So that has to be completed before you perform the wudu. Cleaning the private parts after using the washroom with water or clean dry objects. So this again, you have to be clean. The water must be clean and permissible to use. So it cannot be stolen water you're using to perform wudu. Removing from the skin anything that may prevent water from reaching it. So whether it be nail polish, whether it be paint, whatever it is. And also the time has entered for the one who nullifies the ablution continuously. So this number 10 is if you can't keep wudu, then you just can't keep wudu. You have an issue keeping wudu. Then one of the condition is let salah come in, let the time for salah come in, and you perform that wudu. So even if, for example, it is broken, so amongst the scholars, they have mentioned, some have said, if you do it up to 3 times, then don't make any more wudu because you have an issue. The others who say, who are even more lenient and says, this is a problem that you have, so you make one wudu and it is sufficient. But bi'idhnillah, regardless of the position one follows, this is just for one to understand that, alhamdulillah, Islam provides ease for those who have difficulty and actual genuine conditions wherein there is hardship. Then Islam itself provides relief for such people, alhamdulillah. So that again is a recap of the condition, some of the things we did last week, bi'idhnillah. Regarding all other things that we mentioned before as well, regarding tahara, cleanliness, is circumcision. Obligatory for the men, and among some of the scholars, they mentioned it is recommended for the women if necessary. Other things, trimming the mustache, clipping the nails, plucking the armpits, shaving around the private parts. These are things, growing the beard, using the siwak, brushing the teeth regularly. So these are other recommended acts of purification. In lesson 13, we did, I'm going quickly because many of this is just recap from last week's session, but alhamdulillah, I think it is reinforcement as well. We looked at what are the obligatory acts of wudu. There are 6. Washing the face, rinsing the mouth, cleaning the nose. Number 2, washing the arms from the fingertips and including the elbow, including the elbow. Wiping the entire head and the ears, washing the feet, including the ankles, washing the parts in particular order, and continuity, not breaking, going and doing something, going and cooking, going and doing, and then coming and finish it off, but doing it in continuity. So those are the lessons we looked at, alhamdulillah. Then we also looked at the things that nullify wudu, whatever exit the 2 private parts. The exiting impure substances from other parts of the body, losing consciousness due to sleep or other than it, touching the private parts front or back without a barrier, eating camel's meat, and leaving Islam. We also mentioned the difference of opinion regarding that of eating the camel meat. Well, majority of the scholars mentioned that based on this hadith, it is an obligatory act that you must perform wudu if you eat camel meat. And the other, from the understanding, for example, amongst the Hanafi, where they interpret the hadith as it has a recommendation, not an obligation, but something that is recommended. That yes, it is recommended to do it bi'idhnillah. Again, we provide the position. So one holds a particular position. Yes, the stronger position, this is the one you believe, but you see others with one position, shouldn't cause an argument, it shouldn't cause problem. That is the wisdom and the beauty of Islam, alhamdulillah. Yes, you may want to have a discussion and convince the person to follow your position. Nothing is wrong with that. But when it becomes where you have animosity and you have hardship, difficulty, and then you can't even get along with each other, that is a problem. That's not the objective of the deen. Now, inshallah ta'ala, the other points I want to bring up today, bi'idhnillah, is looking at some other points regarding the pillars of Islam. So again, the book itself looks at common lessons that every Muslim needs to know. And this is an explanation or an in addition to the lesson within the book. So some other points, for example, what if you don't have water to make wudu? Is it that you don't pray? Of course not. The option is there to perform tayammum, which is dry ablution. It is a substitution for the ablution with water if one is excused from using water. So for example, how can you be excused? What are the conditions for you to be excused? Where there is no water, where you have tried to obtain water and you can't find it. So saying there's no water, meaning that I don't have any water in this room, but there's water in the bathroom or water outside in the low pipe. No, that it means that there's water. So one, there is no water, there's no access to water. And also, of course, if there's none that is, so maybe there is, but it is not clean and suitable for wudu. So it is possibly some stagnant water that is not suitable, it's not permissible for wudu, or one is sick. So one may have an illness where one can't wet oneself, where even the doctor recommends, no, you shouldn't touch water because of some form of sickness or illness. So then, of course, one is excused from using water where there. So if there's no water or you are excused from using it, then one can use dirt, right? So that is used instead of water. What is the description? Intend to make tayammum, say Bismillah, touch the clean earth with both hands, wipe the face and the back of each hand. So the hands meaning just the palm and the back of the palm. So you don't have to go up to the elbow. Of course, just the palm and the back of the palm, as we see in the demonstration here, right? So touching the earth, of course, wiping the face, wiping the hands, the palm and the back of the palm, the back of the hand, and that is sufficient. So this is, and then this lasts for this salah. So it is not like one can be in a state where I perform tayammum for fajr, and I didn't break it, so I can go for dhuhr. No, you have to perform it again. That's the difference with tayammum. Tayammum lasts for that particular salah. This is the position of, I say I'm using the word majority, but I don't know if there's a different position. So I'm using the word majority as a means of safety. So I'm not familiar of there being another position where one can have tayammum for the entire day. So the one that I'm familiar with is that it lasts for the salah, Allahu alam, that it lasts for that particular act of ibadah. So again, what is mentioned here? So this is something that is clear. It is not legislated to spread the fingers when touching the sand, nor wiping between the fingers when wiping the hands. So it's not like water you want it to touch everywhere. It's not legislated. We have to open out the palms and ensure that the sand goes between all the fingertips. That is not legislated, right? Then it's mentioned also the description of ghusl, the obligatory shower when it is necessary. The easiest way to make ghusl from head to toe, ensure everywhere is washed, right? So of course, the sunnah method, washing the private parts, performing wudu, and then the head to toe, right side, left side, head to toe. But the Prophet ﷺ, in many occasions, when he told persons to make ghusl, he didn't give them a detailed description. Aisha radiallahu anha, she was the one who gave the detailed description of how he made ghusl. So if you don't remember the exact thing, I mean, it's kind of easy to remember. Washing the private parts, performing wudu, and then washing down from the head to the toe. But you don't remember, just ensure you wash from the head to the toe everywhere. Everywhere is washed, everywhere is clean. And of course, you have to have the intention that this is ghusl. So if it's a regular shower and then you come out and say, I don't want to perform wudu because I showered. No, you have to have the intention that this was ghusl. So this is the intention has to be there. What makes it obligatory? Of course, a wet dream, a man with his wife, whatever it may be, postnatal bleeding after the completion of the monthly cycle for the woman, death of other than a martyr, a non-Muslim accepting Islam. So these are the conditions that make it obligatory when it must be done. Recommended time, done on Jum'ah. So recommended times to perform the shower is Yawmul Jum'ah. Of course, I'm not really going to look at the details of wiping the socks. So yes, wiping the socks is permissible. Some people in the condition and the thickness of the socks, this is not what we're going to get into. One of the things I will mention, however, is that generally for one who is a resident, that it is allowed for somebody to do it for a day and a night. So if you notice, wiping the socks only allowed for a day and a night, 24 hours if you're not traveling, and up to 3 days, that is 72 hours for a traveler. And the time begins from the first wiping after one has nullified the ablution. So that is the only point I will mention, bi'idhnillah, regarding the wiping of the socks, the time in which it is done. Regarding the thickness, then of course, that's another issue that many would go into, but inshallah ta'ala, we're trying to get to the basics that we all need to know, bi'idhnillah. Manners of using the bathroom, we're familiar with that. Being clean, trying our best not to face the qibla. Of course, ensuring one of the things we try to do is use the left hand to touch the private parts. We don't mention the name of Allah within the bathroom. These are things that we try our best, the things that we try to stay away from, and of course, trying to ensure that we are pure. Also seeking forgiveness before entering the bathroom. We make a dua before entering and even when coming out. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. Oh Allah, I start in your name. I'm seeking refuge from the male and female jinn. And when I come on ghufranaka, oh Allah, I seek your forgiveness. So these are things that are done with regards to the bathroom. Again, the Prophet ﷺ, it's mentioned that one of the things is that we shouldn't stand and urinate. There is one of the companions who said that he was at a high distance and he saw the Prophet ﷺ standing while urinated. And there are those who take the hadith and say that, yes, this is the case. Aisha radiallahu anha, she actually refuted it. But what is the best position is that we shouldn't stand and urinate. So even though there is a narration to mention that somebody saw him at one particular point doing this act, then the recommended act is, even as men, we should sit and urinate. Ensure everything comes out, ensure one is pure, ensure nothing is splashed, and that we don't leave urine for the one who is coming back, that we end up making them najis when they themselves are ignorant that you are the one who left the place filthy and dirty. So these are some of the things, inshallah ta'ala. Zakah is also one of the things that many of us may not know much about. And there are two different types of zakah. There's zakatul fitr and zakatul mal. Zakatul fitr, it is a must upon every Muslim, adult, child, male, female, slave, or free. This is the one that is paid after Ramadan, right? The adult pays it on behalf of the children. This is the one that is for everyone, right? However, it's the adults who pay on behalf of the children. And this is the one after Ramadan when we want our fast to be accepted. Zakatul mal, it is that zakat, the third pillar of Islam, is obligatory upon every free Muslim who has reached the amount to pay, the nisab level. There is no zakah until the amount has been sitting for a year. So you become rich today, you don't have to pay zakah until you're still wealthy for a particular year. So somebody gave you $10 million. Alhamdulillah, that is far above the nisab level. But what if you start paying off debts and obligations, and within 3 months, you're no longer a millionaire. You're back to where you were at, where you were probably earning less than $100,000 a month, barely can make ends meet. Then there's no zakah upon you. However, if you have this level of wealth, you reach the nisab level, and you have that level of wealth for a year. So you have that level of savings, you have that level of reserve for a year without debt and all of these things, then of course, alhamdulillah, the zakah comes upon it. And it is minimal. SubhanAllah, there are mainly 4 categories with regards to zakah. There is zakah on merchandise that you sell. There is zakah on the things that you grow, zakah on that which you graze, and then your wealth, like gold and silver, and of course, your currency, particularly. So those are the 4 main categories: merchandise, things that are grown, animals, and currency, be it gold, silver, or whatever cash you may have. The equivalent that is generally used is 85 grams of gold. What is 85 grams of gold worth in wherever you are? So that's an excellent benchmark. Or what is 595 grams of silver worth in your jurisdiction? And that gives you an idea of what the nisab level is. So how much would you need to have at least for a year? And upon that amount, above that amount, then the zakah is obligatory. You have to pay 2.5% on that amount. With regards to the animals and the merchandise, subhanallah, it is broken down as to how much. If it's gold, you have to have up to 40, and then 1. All of these different things are calculated within the deen. But if you don't have it, inshallah ta'ala, I'm not going to do things that might not be applicable to most of us. You can always research and consult regarding if you are grazing. So you are doing some form of farming. If it is rain that nourishes it, or you have to do your own irrigation, that the zakah is different. Allah is so merciful that subhanallah, if it is the rain and you don't have to do much work, then the zakah that's particularly is defined. But if you had to do the work to get the water to reach the plant and whatever, then the zakah is also defined by that. It's very specific, subhanallah. But who are the people entitled to receive zakah? The poor, the fuqara, mean they don't have any wealth or they have very little. Al-masakin, the needy, mean they have half or more than what they need. So the fuqara, those are like destitute, right? Really have nothing, very little. But then you have the masakin, the miskin, that they have something, but it is not enough. For example, if somebody needs to earn 12,000 a year to live properly, these person are earning probably 6,000 or less, right? The needy is the one who has, so the needy is the one who has 6,000 or more, but they don't reach the 12. The fuqara mean they are below the poverty line. So the fuqara, so for example, as we said, that 12,000 is what people need to live. That the masakin, they're like halfway there or above, but the fuqara, they're even less than half. So suppose for here in Jamaica, for example, let's say a family needs 150,000 to survive. Then somebody who is earning 75 or more, then you would say that person is a needy person, right? Well, somebody's earning less than 75, then you say they are fuqara. They are poor. They are the ones that are destitute. But both categories qualify for zakah. Then those who are employed to collect the funds. So those who collect the funds and those are entrusted with the fund to distribute it, they also qualify. SubhanAllah, look at that condition. That it even prevents them from even considering all this money that I'm here getting and distributing and helping. Why can't I get something from it? That they also, there is something that is designated for them, but they can't determine that, of course, because then that would be a conflict. But that it is determined that they also qualify for it. Number four, subhanallah, mu'allafata qulubuhum. This one is perfect to attract the heart of those who are inclined to Islam. So what does this mean? This is the category of the non-Muslims. So some people think zakat is for Muslims alone. This mu'allafata qulubuhum, this one, subhanallah, that to attract the heart of those who have been inclined to Islam. So you know these people, they love Islam. You know that they like Islam. Then if you know that, then these are people that also qualify. So just in case you give them some funds, take care of their needs, then they may say, subhanallah, the Muslims are so good, I just want to be a Muslim. Nothing is wrong with that. Subhanallah, Allah has embedded this within the deen, that the people who you see that they look like they like Islam, give them zakat. They qualify for zakat, meaning that they are within that category. So it's not an option, they are within the category. Number five, to free the captives. Don't really have much of that, so I'll go past that. Those who are indebted. So people, you know, they are in debt. They really, yes, they are living, you know, but they have some debt that it's just so hard to pay off because they're just trying to take care of their family and it's difficult to pay off. Then they also qualify for zakat to give them that level of assistance. Also, those who are fighting in Allah's cause, then again, this is a category that don't necessarily have, but we need to know. And number eight, for a traveler who is cut off from everything. So somebody who is traveling and it's probably difficult to get back to their country. They're having some issues because they just came, they haven't settled yet, they haven't received a job, then they also qualify for zakat. So alhamdulillah, those are some of the things that we need to know. This regarding this chart, I put it within the slides, but I'm not necessarily, we're not going to really discuss this inshallah ta'ala. We're almost out of time, but this is good to know, the amount of zakat, the time period of 1 year being fulfilled, the amount that makes it obligatory, and the type of wealth that zakat is qualified on. So inshallah ta'ala, what I will do, I will pull these slides and just share it in the group, inshallah ta'ala, for those who wish to know, but I don't really want to go too extensively. But I'll pull it, inshallah ta'ala, because there may be persons among us who are doing farming and persons among us who are in jewel and doing these things. So it might be something that is important to them. Or you may, persons who are doing it may even ask you questions and you can share with them, bi'idhnillah. With regards to fasting, I think we're familiar with regards to fasting, the pillars of fasting, making intention, and of course, withholding from that which breaks the fast. I think we're familiar with this, bi'idhnillah. So inshallah ta'ala, even though I added some of these slides, with the interest of time, not going to go through that, bi'idhnillah. Another thing, we spoke about this in our other sessions, is regarding the beginning of the month of Ramadan. Now, with regards to beginning the month of Ramadan, I saw a question regarding land, alhamdulillah. Inshallah ta'ala, that I really don't want to get into the details of the calculations. So what I will do, bi'idhnillah, is you can ask that question. I know you are in the group, so ask the question, inshallah ta'ala. And I will share it with someone who is much more qualified than myself. And then, of course, inshallah, I will forward the response to you, bi'idhnillah, regarding zakah on land, because that I'm not going to give a comment on that. Inshallah, I'll share it with someone who's much more knowledgeable than myself on the issue. And then, bi'idhnillah, whatever the response is, I will share with you, bi'idhnillah. The things that break the fast, again, we are familiar. We are familiar. Eating or drinking intentionally, having relation with one wife, the exiting of that which, so one is stimulated, and then of course this happens, that which takes the same ruling as eating or drinking. So nutritional vaccines, that which provides nutrition, cupping, it breaks the fast, vomiting intentionally, of course, immense and postnatal bleeding. So some of these we are familiar with. Recommended actions of fasting, the disliked acts with regards to fasting, and the recommended fast, the 6 days of Shawwal, fasting on the day of Arafah for those who are not performing Hajj, fasting on the day of Ashura, and also doing the day before it or the day after it, fasting Mondays and Thursdays, fasting on the white days, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of the lunar calendar, fasting every other day, like Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, and of course fasting most of Shaban, like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So the disliked fast is fasting on Fridays alone, or only Saturdays, or only Sundays. If one fasts these days alone due to a reason such as the day of Arafah, then it is acceptable. Generally, these days you should fast them with others, unless you're fasting the fast of Dawood alayhi salam, where you fast every other day, then it would end up where you end up with just one of these days. The prohibited fast, to fast Rajab alone, where a person just fasts in that month alone, to fast any of the 2 days of Eid, to fast a day before Ramadan, unless it is one of the days one fast weekly, that this is your routine that you fast on that day. So if you know it's not your Ramadan, don't think that here what I'm going to fast the day before Ramadan just in case we miss the day. No, you can't mock the system. You can't trick the system. It is prohibited to do that. You have to fast. You know this is when Ramadan starts. This is the day you fast. Don't fast the day before just in case it was the wrong day we saw the moon. That is not a condition for one to fast. Also fasting every day. This is not the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever doesn't follow my sunnah, they are not from amongst us. His sunnah is to fast and break the fast. So rulings on making up the fast. These are other things, inshallah ta'ala, zakatul fitr, and also performing hajj. Ibnillah, some of these, what I will do, inshallah ta'ala, I will actually share the slides, inshallah, for those to read. So you're interested in performing hajj, the different types of hajj, and the routine itself, that Sheikh Uthaymeen gave a detailed explanation, 2 pages, inshallah ta'ala, the description of performing hajj. Once you get there, what you need to do, and the entire process. So inshallah ta'ala, instead of doing it as a part of the class, I will share these notes so one can read them, ibnillah. So these slides, inshallah ta'ala, I will share them. I have selected them from a text. So yes, the text is much more detailed. So I will share the text itself, inshallah ta'ala, and then you can read that which you want. The text is an explanation of the text that we are doing. So the text that we are doing, because the things that general Muslims need to know, this text is a book that explains the text, inshallah ta'ala. So I'll share it. It's not much pages. I think it's less than 200 pages, inshallah ta'ala. It has a lot of quizzes within it, so one can do as a means of recap and revision. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. So inshallah ta'ala, I will just open the floor for a minute or so. If there are any questions or comments, then one may proceed to ask idnillah. All right, so if there are any questions or comments, then inshallah ta'ala, we'll open the floor for a minute. If not, then we will end the session bidnillah. But I will share the text that we are using for the explanation. We're almost finished with the text, so I think it's good to share the text for those who want to recap and or read the additional explanations or additional notes that are within this book, bidnillah. Now, go ahead, Sister Amina.
Yes, you mentioned something earlier when we were talking about circumcision, and you said that some scholars hold the view that female circumcision is recommended. Is that correct?
Yes, there are some that hold that view. Yes, now.
Do you know what the authority is for that?
No, so the position that I follow is that it is not. But I've seen that within the text. I've never researched that. But I do have a text that I will inshallah ta'ala look at, because I've seen it and skipped over it. So
okay.
I've seen it and skipped over it. So alhamdulillah, I'll share that as well. What is the position? And I'm fearful of sharing that position, to be honest, because some persons may take it as me saying that this is the position that must be followed. So, but I'll share that with you, inshallah ta'ala.
Just
whoever asks.
It's it's a surprise to me, because I've always thought that it's a tribal practice rather than Islamic practice. And as you know, it's a topic which is very controversial.
Agreed. I know. I'm very familiar with that. So this is why I said I'm not going to share it as a group share. I just mentioned it that some scholars do say it is. So for those who wish to know, then individually I will share it.
Okay. Barakallah.
No, jazakumullah khairan. Ameen. So inshallah ta'ala, alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khairan kathiran. Barakallahu feekum. Shukran jazilan. May Allah reward you all immensely. Wassalamu alaikum.